大家好。
9分钟讲中文吗？
No.
每个人都会讲中文，
中文都讲。
Yeah, we're getting
对，
misled
都
here.
能讲。
起码能听。
至少不管他们说什么，你们都可以说中文。你们都能听懂。
Once you hear my Chinese.
平时只是跟你们1对1，肯定是中文，他们很放开的讲的。但是人多了，他们就怕。
因为我们有
还不会英文的。
可以 mix。
还有对，可以 mix 都可以。那个米笑的中文super 好，他是9年级到美国来的。所以如果说有哪些需要翻译的话，我想他可以中翻英、英翻中都可以。
You like to see that? Just send a
因为他是真的中文、英文都很好。
现在几年级啊？
12.
还是习惯讲英
You
文。
have to choose a language for a second. Do language selection.
Speak Croatian or Italian?
Yes, very good option. Well, let's get started.
Yeah. So today, I don't know what Sherry specifically put in the email, but today we wanted to just do like a short little talk about teens and like the relationships they have with their friends and their parents and their peers and so on, and then. But instead of having like a full-blown presentation like we have done in the past, we want to open it up for you to ask questions and just have a sort of open discussion about our topic. Yeah.
Whatever, yeah. So let's go and drop some names.
Yeah, I'm Nelson. I'm a junior from University.
I'm Eddie. That's it. I just have an A.
Eddie graduated from 他是桑托卡 High School 毕业的嘛，很多年前哪一年？2000几年？09年。桑托卡 High School 毕业，然后去了 Swarthmore， 在2011年 Swarthmore 毕业。
Oh, 13年。Yeah. That's it. Go ahead.
I'm Jonathan. I'm a sophomore at Lindbergh.
No, just kidding. I'm Robert, and I'm a junior at Monte Vista, same as Nelson.
I am Alex. I am a senior at Linden High School.
I'm Michelle, and I am a senior at Malley.
I'm Harrison. I'm a junior at Saratoga High School.
I'm Hudson, and I'm a sophomore at Fremont Christian.
So here we have the same idea.
You
Want to like introduce an introduction about what?
Let's do that.
Slides. Slides.
Well, let's talk about it without the slides.
Yeah, so over the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about just like relationships in general and how we can build sort of healthy relationships between ourselves and possibly how parents can support that.
Yeah, I think something that I noticed as someone who's been out of high school for some time, and even out of college for some time, is that we as Chinese Americans relate to each other and talk to each other very differently than how my white friends would talk to me, or how my black friends would talk to me, how they would talk to each other. I think a lot of the difference in how we communicate comes from the differences in our upbringings, the kinds of pressures that we faced growing up. Require us and teach us, train us to communicate in certain ways that are good for certain kinds of conversations and not as good for others. So I thought that there was something very interesting, very unique about our upbringings and the ways that we communicate as a result that we wanted to investigate. So I've been out of high school for some time now, but these guys are still in it. They experience it every day. Most of their friends are also other Asian or Chinese Americans. I have almost no Asian or Chinese friends, so it's been a while for me, but these guys are in the middle of it every day. They experience it. They're pros at figuring out their experiences, and collecting this information about the world. And figuring out, what it is that makes us different, what makes us uniquely Chinese.
And I'm noticed that in the email thread that parents sent to Sherry, there were a lot of questions about like teen-parent communication in general. But in the past few weeks, we also talked about like friendship, like dating and stuff like that. So we might talk about maybe either of that. That's okay with you guys?
So questions.
Yeah, like if you feel like you have
for her, for you, you transfer when you're nine. Yes, ninth grade, right? My daughter is right now in 10th grade, and she just transferred this year from China to here, and she really feel a lot of challenging. It's not her English problem. She's attending English international school in Shanghai, so there's no English problem. But the problem is it's hard for her to make friends. So that's a big pressure for her. And she still miss her friend in Shanghai. And she feel right now she's in Saratoga High. I think few of you guys from Saratoga High. Yeah. So yeah, she feel like I don't know. She feel like people there maybe because they have all the, because in the past they can have a common topic they can talk about. They share the same experience right when they grew up. But she didn't have that experience with the current classmates. So it's hard for her to make friends. So how do you adjust yourself to?
Well, I didn't go to international school when I was in 8th year.
Okay.
Actually, I was born here and I went to China when I was like for elementary school.
Okay.
So I kept my English by like coming back every year to Palo Alto for like 2 months for summer camps and stuff. I don't know. I think it really depends on the person. I can talk to you a little bit more about that later.
Sure.
That's not.
If it's not
question
common
that
for
applies
everyone,
to
so yeah.
everyone.
这边有一个家长也是，他当这个刚入就年级。
I feel like it really varies from individual
I
to
mean,
individual.
in general, it's sort of widely applicable in that it's difficult for everyone to make friends. I mean, there are some people who find it really easy to make friends and just and hurrah for them. But for the rest of us, it can be difficult. Like for example, when I actually moved to California when I was like 8 or so, and when that happens, yeah, it was. I didn't face as much pressure because I was younger at the time. I wasn't in high school, but still, like people in general, just students, especially our age in general, people like to stick with things that they're used to and people that they're used to. They don't really like to. Not many people like to branch out and sort of meet people that they are unfamiliar with or who are different from them or so on, and and that makes developing friendships like that, especially if you're new to somewhere, difficult. And so I guess one way you can sort of do that is just like. I mean, for example, just embrace like what makes you unique as a person and what you sort of bring into the community that you enter, and then once people sort of see you not as the new guy but as a well-rounded person, they might be more interested in getting to know you. They might be more interested in.
Something I would want to add on too is that I think everything can be improved with practice, right? And making friends is a skill, right? I think it's very rare that you have someone who is purely an introverted person and they're always going to have trouble making friends. Like, I think that's a very rare kind of person. I think it's also a very rare kind of person who naturally has a lot of, has a very easy time making friends. I think both kinds of people are very rare. Most people are in the middle, and everyone in the middle can improve. So that makes me think a lot about our lifestyles. As I remember when I was in high school, my daily schedule would be I'd go home after school, and then I'd just study, and that was my whole day. And my weekend too, same thing. I had very little time practicing the skill of making friends. And I think from you guys too, when I see you guys on Saturdays, I'm like, hey, how was your weekend? You're like, dude, this test killed me. I just have to study for another test now, and that's the routine. There aren't a lot of chances we make for ourselves where we think, where we go, okay, like I'm going to put myself in a new situation, and I'm going to practice making friends, and I'm going to practice being in this new place. We very rarely get these opportunities because culturally, like, we value certain things, and that can come at the expense of other opportunities.
Actually, she's attending a lot of clubs. She also like history ball, like MUN, like a lot of like she's even in the literature art, part. But to me, I think she still cannot find a close friend. She met so many people, and I just we just hang together and practice something to finish one project, but never be like sort of close friend because like for girls they won't have some person can talk a little bit deeper things feeling. But that's for her is hard. I'm not sure how to. Let her maybe talk to you a little bit more about that.
The other thing I noticed too, you said she went to Saratoga High.
Right.
So I went to Saratoga High.
Yeah.
And something I experienced too was, so I didn't come from Saratoga. I grew up in East San Jose. And most of my friends also. Oh, okay. Alright, taking a picture. Most of my friends grew up in East San Jose, and of course, in East San Jose, neighborhoods are much poorer. You're not focused so much on academics. So I had really close friends because we weren't thinking about academics or anything like that. And once I went to Saratoga, I had this experience very similar to your daughter's, where I felt like it was impossible to really know anyone very deeply.
Right. That's a problem.
And then I graduated, and I realized maybe that's just how everyone does it at Saratoga High. Is that people are so wrapped up in academics. It's very rare for people to go, hey, I'm really interested in who you are. I want to be really close. So it could be that maybe at international school, she's used to having a standard for friendship and closeness that at Saratoga High it's just harder to find. So that's something, that's my thought.
I don't know, because then, she's sometimes frustrated, then we just start arguing. Sometimes I tell her you should make friends like this, but natural for me, I easy to make friends. That's a person I can know anybody, I can approach any strangers, but she just can't. So I try to tell her, what I try to do, but she said, Mama, I don't have the courage to do it. So that's why I try to see, we argue a lot, so I try to see how to improve. Get relationship get very tense now, so I try to see how to get improve the relationship. It seemed to me she didn't listen to me either, so I feel so hard.
Yeah, that's something that's hard.
Yeah.
That relationship is hard.
I try to understand. Today I tell her, I said, today I'm going to go to a seminar, so all the kids like your age. And they will tell me how they communicate with their parents, why we always argue. I want to try to stop this kind of argument. So today I will learn this, I come back, I'll tell you my feedback.
Something that we've talked a lot about too is this kind of skill. It's something called nonviolent communication, which is something that was developed by a few psychologists and has been used from anywhere from like parent-teen relationships to negotiating international treaties. So you're pretty proven, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, keep your zone.
How was your transition from high school? I'm sorry, came from a golf course. And your friends, I'm all sweaty.
Yeah, no worries.
So how did you feel about the transition from the high school to the college?
To college.
Say the first year.
Sure. So I went to a very elite, mostly white-dominated college. It's like where, if someone gets into Harvard but wants to pay more money, they go to Sorbonne. So it's very elite, white-dominated, and the biggest adjustment was to learn a different kind of style of socializing. It's very different here, where the kinds of conversations we have. I don't mean us, because we have plenty of deep conversations. But the kinds of conversations I had with friends in high school was, often left a lot to be desired, which is why I mentioned to you my experience there. A lot of it was dealing, trying to figure out what people wanted from me. What kinds of, like, did they want me to be funny? Did they want me to be more intellectual? Did they want me to talk about my emotions more? It was hard to find what the natural way of being was. And you add on top of that a lot of racism. It's very subtle kinds of. It was hard to deal with. I can talk to you a little bit about that later. Maybe
Of course,
after.
it's always there. It depends on who you mingle with.
Sure.
general, I think that like so many heads just turned. Oh, that's but okay. Sorry. In general, I think that like just being sincere and just being yourself, like there will always be people who gravitate towards you, especially. I mean, I go to Pali. Initially, I thought kind of the same as what Eddie thought, that a lot of people were very focused on their academics or very tight in their social groups already. But it turned out, like, when I just did what I liked, like what I liked was choir, I like singing, and journalism, being in publication, when you can just like talk about how you feel and what you want and not care about what, you know, other people think, there are people who naturally gravitate toward that because they need it too and they want to find that at Pali.
Or you need that courage to do that. Right? If you really don't care about what other people think, especially a new student. If she wants, somehow she wants because the people can, you know, accept her if you want to do whatever. You need a lot of strength to do it.
I also feel like courage isn't something that, just personally, I feel like courage isn't something that can be taught. Like, it's something that, like, what's courage? Like, you pushing yourself, kind of, right? Personal opinion.
How do you involve all in, just on general, how do you involve your, with the school clubs? Because, you know, I know that some of the people need to have a, you know, certain, you just have to throw yourself into an environment, everybody's kind of have to be together for a couple of hours or 1 hour, even a half hour. So, is how you involve, you're like in math clubs, robotics, you know, journalism, that's another good one. But journalism usually is a class, isn't it?
Journalism is
Yeah,
a class,
so-
yeah, but they have a speech and a debate club.
Well,
Speech
yeah,
and debate.
but journalism is quite different from
Journalism.
speech and debate.
Journalism.
So journalism is a good place actually for a lot of students, but some of the schools are very selective because, you know, public school they cannot have 10 journalism class, they only have like 1 or 2. So do you have to say apply for writer, staff writer?
I was very lucky. The journalism advisor, I was very lucky because I talked to him a lot and I liked him and I think that he appreciated like us like communicating a lot, so he said, oh, you have a spot.
Because some of the school is very
Now we can use,
and especially Asian dominated school.
We can
Oh,
use
really does,
with
yeah.
omega.
Because everybody and so too many Asian
that
or
will be,
Chinese. But journalism actually is a good place, you know, for your daughter if she wants to try
Yeah,
something.
because we talk about journalism is very good.
And,
I didn't find difficulty. I just
potential
tell the counselor, I said, I want to put my daughter in there.
potential
So they just put,
again.
Some schools.
yeah, she actually, we come late, so, but she's,
So we have 1 minus cosine.
That's a good place to start because, you know, she will start with some, you know, group of students. She will read
That's our
friends.
total formula. Now
Yeah, they
it's
did
either
project
KT
together.
over omega as a function of
So
sine.
to get back to the beginning of your question, I think we can go a long way and just talk about like what we're involved in school and like how we
Yeah,
developed
So,
relationships from that.
we can rewrite this formula in this
Like how we
form.
develop relationships in school.
Yeah.
It's like among friends. Alright, well, I've only been really involved in one club in my school. It was a hip hop club in my school. The hip hop club in my school. So
We have 1 minus
I made
cosine
friends through that. I joined when I was in 9th grade.
is equal,
But I was like still adjusting to high school, so I didn't really
R
get involved until the 2nd semester of 9th grade. Then in 10th grade, then the club was like falling apart, like when I reached 10th grade because of like some sort of drama that I wasn't involved in. So eventually our club got smaller,
And finally we
and
have
I felt like I had to do something for this club, like find new members. So
So we have
our club generally goes to the first dance of the school year to basically show off our club and also to find members. And I did that in my 10th grade year, it was just me. I was the only person that went to the dance because my club had been so small that there were only like 2 members left. So the president didn't go, so I went, and it was kind of strange because I was by myself. Yeah, it was a 3-hour dance.
Wow.
So I spent about 2 or 2.5 hours by myself, just like just breaking.
Only think of one friend. You say 2 members then.
Okay. So at that time, like before the dance and stuff, the membership in the club had pretty much dropped to just 2 members, me and the president.
What's the requirement to organize a club? How many members?
10.
At least 10?
I think 10 to make the club, but our club was already established a couple years ago. Actually, I don't even think we have 10 members right now.
How many people did you recruit though for that thing?
That one dance thing. So I met one person, cause he was doing something. Then I had to go way out of my comfort zone to talk to him, cause I don't really talk to people. Cause most of the time I just stay at home and study.
So once the club is established, so doesn't matter how many members that drop to, you still can keep in the high school, right?
I think so. As long as you meet other club requirements like meetings and stuff. If you're like an active club, I think it's alright. And I think the members in my club are pretty dedicated. We're always working hard to make choreography and stuff for all sorts of showcases at our school. But back to the first dance, I recruited one club member, and then we basically talked for like the rest of the 30 minutes or 1 hour left in the dance, and then the dance ended. And so I made a pretty good friend from that. But then afterwards, that was the Friday. Then the following Monday, he brought another friend with him. And at first he was kind of shy because he thought that the things we did were too cool for him. But then the day afterwards, he started getting a little more confident. And so he told me that he wanted to practice with us. And I was like, that's totally fine, because, I mean, we needed the membership anyways. So we let him in, and that was 1.5 years ago. And now they're both officers in my club. So the club has grown from then, like, since that, like, my one action of slight courage, it helped my club grow, and like I made some pretty good friends from them. I met their friends too, even though they didn't do any dancing. It was alright. So I made friends from that, and I think they're pretty close friends since during breaks we tend to go every Thursday. We go out to do some practice.
Yeah, sometimes it just takes one act of just like going hard and like not letting yourself get too embarrassed and just sticking with it. That's all it
So
takes.
you still have only 2 members in your club?
We've definitely expanded from then. Yeah, so we have 2 members then. Okay, so me, those 2. We have our vice president. We have, I know we have quite a few people who don't have any officer roles in the club. I think there's about, wait, there might be more than 10 of us. Yeah.
What's your position?
I'm president.
I think he's president. I think he's president.
Yeah.
So, I have a question. Do you guys play the game?
Yes.
The video game? Okay, so now my question is like, so compared to the middle school, like, so you
More.
play more?
Less.
I play less.
Okay, some people play more, some people play less.
He's a senior, so he has
Yeah, but they're all, my entire high school career I've been playing more in general.
So when you say more, it's like average, like how many hours per day? Average, like roughly, general.
2.5 to 3.
A day. Wow.
How many
So
hours?
you're able to-
2.5 to 3.
Play online.
2.5
2.5 to 3.
Can you
A day.
2.5 to 3 a day. So now the question is, how do you control that time?
I finish my homework and I do it.
So you finish your homework, huh?
You finish your homework, then you do.
But if the other way, how do you control this?
I don't.
Okay. Oh, then that means you can self-discipline very good. But some kids
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
not.
But
Then how do you do? You have to computer
so
away.
now
that's
you
not
only
good.
2 or 3 hours. You say you have more time compared to when you were in the middle school. So middle school is about like a half hour, maybe 1 hour.
Middle school, I probably had some more time, but I just didn't want to play. But it's still not a problem, I think, for a lot of people to spend a lot of time in video games in high school, because being able to play, having a lot of free time is a sign that you have a very good skill for time management, and that's something that people should develop. So I think, in general, that people who actually play more in high school are sometimes more successful than the ones who play less.
Oh, really?
Not because of video games in general, but because they're the ones that are able to manage their time more efficiently, not waste their time.
It's correlative, as we
Yeah.
say. Yeah. I mean, we had a whole separate presentation on video gaming itself. A lot of it is, I think it can be summed up to say that video gaming itself isn't the problem; it's a symptom. You know, if you're to look at other communities, you know, even very close to us, down the street, you know, look at Los Gatos High, right? You know, similar pressures, similar kinds of wealth levels, right? They don't play video games. That's not a thing for them. You know, it's specifically an Asian American type of issue, and so.
Is that true? Because you know I know that there was like one kid actually got into Caltech, but he was well known for video gaming, and he just right after school he would go to a friend's house. It's all Asian, all Chinese. But then out of the 5 students, 2 of them getting Fs in some of the classes. So it really depends on the kids how would they be able to handle it.
Sure. I mean, yeah. So it's kind of like Alex is saying. You know, sometimes it works out. You know, sometimes sometimes video gaming is a symptom of, or is correlated with better time management. Sometimes it's not. It's not necessarily causal either way.
Anybody experience knowing friends actually failing classes, getting C's, you know, that's not failing for high school, C is passing. Have you heard people doing that? Because it is an issue. That's why the parents are bringing this one up.
So yeah, I mean, I've certainly heard of that happening, right? I've known people, but it's still very rare.
Very rare.
You know, it was rare that I knew someone who just didn't get into college, you know. This was a few years ago, but not so long ago that it's an irrelevant experience, I think. I knew very few people who you know, had it ruin their lives and they had to, you know, drop out. You know, worst case, the worst that I saw happen was they went to De Anza and they went to Berkeley. That was the worst case, you know. Right. But at the end of the day, it's Berkeley. The point I was trying to make is that for us, you know, it's interesting because if video games were the root problem, you'd see this in every teenage kid, you know, across America. But for some reason, it's localized to us. You know, so as you were saying in your example, you know, this kid who got into Caltech, he goes home and starts playing, or he goes to someone else's house and starts playing, but everyone else there is also Asian, right? So I think that's what's interesting, is that there's something about video gaming that is especially appealing to us. You know, we, for whatever reason, have certain kinds of needs. Every high schooler has needs, right? And depending on the circumstances, the needs are different. But our needs, for some reason or other, there's enough commonality to all our needs that video gaming fills that, you know, perfectly. You know, and whether or not that's, you know, the reward, right? So video games love to tell you that you're great at something, right? But how often do
And
we
also
get...
parents usually suppress that urge.
Right, exactly.
So the kids will say, okay, if I can sneak around and do it, I'm winning my parents. That's what I read one of the articles.
Yeah, or at least
Asian that.
maybe if not you know, beating the parents at something, it's just simply getting validation for yourself, being told, being reminded.
Because of the score or something?
Yeah, because of the score, you feel good, you know, compared to other students, you feel good about yourself, right? but it's not something that parents necessarily always
Right.
give, right? And so
It's just like excitement, right? If you can get around some kind of rules.
not necessarily excitement, but it's just validation. You know, someone telling you, hey, you're good at something. You know.
So what, who do you play with? I mean, online, you know, and it's not localized game, like in the old days, you know, in our generations, we just get the game and
Yeah.
plug it in and play,
Ping pong,
right?
yeah.
And also girls doesn't really, my brother loves the game, but he did really well in high school, but however, he was really addicted to it, you know, but back then it's no, you know, I mean,